The world is full of old pictures, marks, and shapes. We see them everywhere on old stones, in books, even in our own cities. Some of these go back thousands of years. They were made by people who, lived in ways we can barely imagine now. And these symbols, they weren't just pretty drawings. They were like secret codes packed with meaning, telling stories about life, death, power, and the universe. Think about it. Why would people spend so much time carving a specific shape into a rock that would last for millennia? Why would the same strange loops or eyes pop up in different parts of the world, thousands of miles apart, sometimes around the same time? It's not just a coincidence. People back then were trying to understand big stuff, where they came from, why things happened, what came next. And they use symbols to help them think about these things. A simple spiral, for instance, might just look like a scribble to us. But for an ancient Celt, it could have been a map of the universe, or a journey into the self. The Eye of Horus from Egypt wasn't just an eye, it was protection, royal power, and good health. These symbols were alive. They had power. People believed they could ward off evil, bring good luck, or connect them to the gods. And we still don't fully get them. We study them, of course. Historians and archaeologists dig them up, puzzle over them. Linguists try to read the ancient languages they're part of. Psychologists like Carl Jung thought these symbols tap into something deep in all of us, something shared across all humanity, what he called the collective unconscious. He believed they were archetypes, universal patterns of human experience. But even with all that looking and thinking, much remains a mystery. We can decode some meanings, sure. We can trace their paths through history. But the feeling, the raw, primal energy these symbols once held for their creators, that's harder to grasp. What did it feel like to look at an Ankh and truly believe it was the key to eternal life? What did the swastika mean to a Hindu before it was twisted into something horrible? This isn't about solving every puzzle. It's about looking at these old symbols with fresh eyes, trying to hear the whispers of the past. It's about remembering that the people who made them were just like us, curious, scared, hopeful, trying to make sense of a confusing world. And maybe, just maybe, these ancient symbols still have something to tell us about ourselves right now. Number 22, does a simple loop hold the key to eternal life? From the Ankh. You've probably seen it. It looks like a cross, but with a loop at the top instead of a regular top arm. It's instantly recognizable, a symbol that just screams ancient Egypt. But it's more than just a cool design, it's a profound statement about life itself and the life that comes after. This symbol, also called the key of life or the breath of life, goes way back. We find it in Egyptian art from the early dynastic period, which is like 5,000 years ago. That's an incredibly long time for a symbol to stick around, and it did all the way through the Roman conquest of Egypt. The Ankh was everywhere, carved into temple walls, painted on papyrus scrolls, etched onto sarcophagi, worn as amulets, held by gods in elaborate frescoes. Its most direct meaning is life or to live. In hieroglyphics, it was the written word for these concepts. But its symbolic power went much deeper. The Ankh represented everlasting life, immortality, and regeneration. Egyptian gods like Isis and Osiris were often shown holding the Ankh, or offering it to pharaohs, symbolizing their gift of life or their authority over it. For the pharaohs, the Ankh wasn't just a sign of their earthly rule, but also their passage to divinity and eternal existence in the afterlife. It was a promise. Wallace Budge, a famous Egyptologist from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, spent a lot of time studying these symbols. His translations of ancient Egyptian texts, including portions of the Book of the Dead, showed just how central the Ankh was to their understanding of existence beyond the physical world. He documented its appearance in countless contexts, always tied to concepts of vitality and enduring life. But what does its shape actually represent? That's a question scholars have kicked around for ages. Some think it's a stylized sandal strap because the Egyptian word for sandal strap sounds a bit like Ankh. Others suggest it's a mirror or a key that unlocks the door to the afterlife. A more intriguing idea is that it represents a combination of the male and female reproductive symbols, the vertical shaft for the male and the oval loop for the female, signifying creation and fertility, which are fundamental aspects of life. This idea, while harder to prove, connects to the Ankh's broader themes of regeneration. It wasn't just decorative. People believed wearing an Ankh amulet could protect them from harm and illness, and ensure their journey through the underworld was successful. It was seen as a source of divine energy, a conduit between the human and the divine. And when Christianity arrived in Egypt, eventually the Coptic Christians adopted a similar cross shape, sometimes called the crux ansata, or handled cross, showing the Ankh's enduring power and adaptability even as old religions faded. Today, the Ankh still captivates us. You see it in jewelry, tattoos, and pop culture references. It's a testament to the power of ancient symbols to transcend their original context and continue to resonate with people searching for meaning in life and perhaps beyond it. But how did the earliest Egyptians decide on this specific form? Was its power truly in its shape, or the belief projected onto it by countless generations? And what forgotten ritual might have been its true origin, a ritual lost to time but encoded in its simple lines? Number 21, when a snake eats its tail, what secret does it keep? The Ouroboros, it's a word that sounds a bit exotic, and the image is definitely striking a serpent or dragon biting or eating its own tail, forming a perfect circle. This isn't just a quirky drawing. It's one of the oldest and most profound symbols of cyclicality and eternity known to humanity. This image stretches back thousands of years. The earliest known depiction comes from ancient Egypt, appearing in funerary texts found in the tomb of Tutankhamun, specifically in the enigmatic Book of the Netherworld around the 14th century BCE. Here, it showed two serpents, each biting its own tail, encircling the god Ra, symbolizing the cyclical nature of the sun's journey and the endless return of creation and destruction. The Egyptians understood the sun's daily death and rebirth as a fundamental truth of the cosmos, and the Ouroboros captured that perfectly. But the symbol didn't stay in Egypt. It traveled. The ancient Greeks adopted it, and they're the ones who gave it the name Ouroboros, which literally means tile devourer. From there, it spread to various other cultures, including the Phoenicians, the Gnostics, and eventually became incredibly important in the esoteric traditions of alchemy. In alchemy, the Ouroboros was a central image, representing the cyclical process of transformation. Alchemists, who weren't just trying to turn lead into gold, but also sought spiritual purification, saw the Ouroboros as a symbol of the unity of matter, the continuous renewal of life, and the idea of one in all, or all is one. It illustrated the idea that the end is also the beginning, and that to achieve higher states, one must often return to the starting point, just as the serpent devours itself to regenerate. The Chrysopoeia of Cleopatra, an ancient alchemical text from the 3rd century AD, famously features the Ouroboros with the Greek phrase hen to pan, meaning the all is one. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, saw the Ouroboros as a powerful archetype. He described it as a primordial image that exists in the collective unconscious of humanity. For Jung, it represented the integration of opposites, the self-consumption and rebirth that leads to individuation, the process of becoming a whole, complete person. He believed it symbolized the eternal struggle and return, a fundamental pattern in the human psyche. The meaning of the Ouroboros is rich and layered. It speaks to infinity, as the circle has no beginning and no end. It symbolizes the continuous cycle of life, death, and rebirth, of creation and destruction. It's about self-sufficiency as the serpent feeds on itself. It suggests cosmic unity, the idea that everything is interconnected and part of an endless flow. You see variations too. Sometimes it's two snakes, sometimes it has different textures or colors, but the core idea remains a never-ending loop of existence. It's a powerful reminder that things don't just end, they transform and begin again. It's a comforting thought for some, a profound philosophical statement for others. Different cultures invent this image independently, or did it spread from a single forgotten source? Does the primal human fear of serpents influence its powerful symbolism, or does it transcend that fear to speak of something far deeper? What if the Ouroboros represents a lost understanding of cosmic physics, a diagram of the universe itself? Number 20, what power does an all-seeing eye truly hold? The Eye of Horus. It's an iconic image, probably the most famous eye in history. This stylized human eye, often with a tear mark or spiral below, and sometimes adorned with an eyebrow, is instantly recognizable as ancient Egyptian. But it wasn't just an eye, it was a potent symbol of protection, royal power, and good health. The story behind the Eye of Horus is a dramatic one, rooted deeply in Egyptian mythology. Horus was one of the most important gods, often depicted as a falcon or a man with a falcon's head. He was the son of Osiris and Isis. His uncle Set murdered Osiris and then, In a struggle for the throne, Set gouged out Horus's left eye. Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic, or sometimes Hathor, the goddess of love, magically restored Horus's eye. This restored eye became known as the Wedjat, which means whole, restored one. Because it was restored and made complete again, the Eye of Horus became a powerful symbol of healing, restoration, and protection. It was believed to ward off evil, provide physical and spiritual health, and ensure regeneration. Pharaohs wore it to guarantee their strength and divine protection. The dead were buried with it, often painted on sarcophagi or carved into amulets to ensure their safe passage through the underworld and their successful rebirth in the afterlife. It was considered a magical shield, a constant watchful presence against malevolent forces. Archaeological finds consistently show the prevalence of the Eye of Horus. Excavations of tombs and burial sites often uncover amulets in the shape of the eye, made from various materials like faience, carnelian, lapis lazuli, and gold. They were placed on mummies, especially over wounds, to symbolize healing and rebirth, reflecting the myth of Horus's restored eye. The symbolic power of the Eye of Horus was so strong that ancient Egyptians even divided it into fractions to represent different senses or aspects of the world. For instance, the pupil was 1/4, the eyebrow 1/8, and so on, adding up to 63/64. The missing 1/64 was thought to represent the magic that allowed Thoth to restore the eye, or the magical element that cannot be quantified. This mathematical precision shows how deeply embedded the symbol was in their thinking, touching on not just mythology but also their understanding of measurement and the cosmos. Egyptologist Richard H. Wilkinson, in his book Reading Egyptian Art, A Hieroglyphic Guide to Ancient Egyptian Painting and Sculpture, elaborates on the Eye of Horus as a potent apotropaic evil-averting symbol. He explains how its prevalence wasn't just decorative, but fundamental to Egyptian beliefs about cosmic order and the battle against chaos. But beyond protection and healing, the Eye of Horus also represented royal power and divine authority. Horus was the divine prototype of the pharaoh, and so his eye symbolized the pharaoh's right to rule, and his ability to see and know all, much like a watchful monarch. It was a statement of sovereignty and legitimacy. Even today, the Eye of Horus continues to resonate. You see it in jewelry, art, and even in modern spiritual contexts. People are drawn to its powerful symbolism of protection and wholeness, a timeless echo of ancient Egyptian beliefs that still speaks to universal human desires for security and well-being. How did the ancient Egyptians develop such a precise mathematical division for an eye, almost like a fractal? Did they believe the eye literally saw and intervened, or was it a metaphor for divine omnipresence? What secrets about the human brain or perception did they understand that allowed them to create such a universally powerful and enduring symbol? Number 19, can a spiral unlock the secrets of time and cosmos? The spiral. It's one of the most ancient and widespread symbols on Earth, found in cultures across continents long before any of them could have possibly communicated. From Neolithic carvings in Ireland to Native American petroglyphs, from ancient Greek pottery to modern art, the spiral persists. It's simple yet profound. What makes a humble swirl so powerful, its omnipresence is startling. In Ireland, the Newgrange Passage tomb, dating back to around 3200 BCE, features massive, intricate triple spirals carved into its entrance stone. In North America, the Anasazi people, ancestral Pueblones, carved spirals into canyon walls in places like Chaco Canyon, often aligning them with astronomical events. In China, ancient bronze vessels from the Shang Dynasty c. 1600 to 1046 BCE display intricate spiral patterns. This wasn't just a trend, it was something fundamental. The spiral in nature is everywhere. Think about it, the coils of a snail shell, the unfurling frond of a fern, the swirling pattern of a hurricane, the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower, even the shape of galaxies in space. It's a fundamental pattern of growth, expansion, and cosmic order. So, it makes sense that ancient humans observing the natural world would recognize this pattern and imbue it with deep meaning. For many ancient cultures, the spiral represented cycles, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, the waxing and waning of the moon, the changing seasons, the journey of the sun. It could symbolize the continuous flow of time and the universe's constant evolution. The inward spiral might represent a journey to the inner self, contemplation, and the center of consciousness, while the outward spiral could signify expansion, growth, and the creation of life. The Celts, particularly, were fascinated by spirals. Their art from the Latène period onwards around 5th century BCE is full of complex interlocking spirals. For them, it might have symbolized the interconnectedness of all things, the continuous journey of the soul, or the unfolding of divine energy. Professor Miranda Green, an expert on Celtic mythology and religion, often discusses how such abstract symbols were central to expressing complex spiritual ideas in a pre-literate society. These patterns were not merely decorative, they were visual prayers, meditations on the nature of reality. The double spiral, or opposed spirals, could represent duality dogs, the balance of opposing forces like male and female, light and dark, life and death, locked in a perpetual dance of creation. Or the triple spiral, like those at Newgrange, is often linked to the three realms of existence: earth, sea, sky, or the three stages of life, birth, life, death, or even the Celtic triple goddesses. Historians like Marija Gimbutas, who studied old European cultures, suggested that the spiral was an ancient symbol of the great goddess, representing fertility and birth, echoing the shape of birth canals. Even in shamanic traditions, the spiral can symbolize a trance state, the winding path taken during a spiritual journey or vision quest leading to other worlds or deeper understanding. It's a pathway to altered consciousness. The sheer universality of the spiral, without obvious cultural transmission in many cases, raises fascinating questions. Was it an independent discovery by different human minds observing the same natural phenomena? Or is there something hardwired into the human brain that predisposes us to recognize and imbue meaning into this specific shape? How did so many distinct cultures independently arrive at the same symbol for such profound concepts? Does the human brain naturally process spiral patterns in a way that generates meaning, regardless of culture? What if the spiral is a fragment of a lost ancient science, a universal diagram for understanding energy or consciousness? Number 18. What unspoken truth does a knot without end whisper? The Celtic knot. When you see one, you know it. Intricate flowing lines that weave over and under each other, forming a continuous, unbroken pattern. No beginning, no end. These knots are more than just pretty designs, they are ancient mathematical and spiritual statements from the Celtic peoples of Europe. You find these knots in various forms across Celtic lands, particularly in Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, stretching back to around the 3rd to 8th century CE. They're most famously seen in the stunning illuminated manuscripts like the Book of Kells, a masterpiece created by Celtic monks around 800 CE. These elaborate knot designs fill entire pages, frame text, and adorn initial letters, showing their profound importance to the artists and scribes. But they also appear on monumental stone crosses, metalwork, and jewelry. The most striking feature of a Celtic knot is its unending nature. The lines loop and intertwine, but they never break. This lack of a start or finish is the key to its meaning. It symbolizes eternity, the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth. It speaks to the timelessness of nature, the interconnectedness of all living things, and the eternal journey of the soul. For the Celts, who had a deep connection to nature and a complex spiritual worldview, the knots could represent the continuous flow of existence. They believed in the transmigration of souls and a cyclical view of time, rather than a linear one. The unbroken line of the knot perfectly captured this philosophy. It was a visual metaphor for the idea that life constantly renews itself and that spirit continues on. Art historians like George Bain, who extensively studied Celtic art, detailed the geometric principles behind these complex patterns. He showed that despite their organic appearance, they are built on a precise grid system, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of geometry. This isn't just doodling, it's careful, intentional design, likely, with specific meanings attached to different patterns and weaves. Different types of knots might have carried specific meanings too. Some intricate knots could represent complex relationships like love, friendship, or loyalty. The Trinity knot, or triquetra, with its 3 interlocking loops, is often associated with Trinity's mind, body, spirit, past, present, future, father, mother, child. After Christianity arrived in Celtic lands, the triquetra was easily adopted to symbolize the Holy Trinity, showing how adaptable and enduring these ancient symbols could be. Beyond the religious or spiritual, Celtic knots were also seen as protective. They were woven into clothing, carved into weapons, and painted on homes, believed to ward off evil spirits and bring good fortune. The intricate interlocking lines might have been thought to trap malevolent forces, preventing them from causing harm. They also spoke to strength and unity. The way the lines hold together, strengthening each other, conveyed a sense of community and enduring bonds. When given as a gift, a Celtic knot could symbolize an eternal promise or a lifelong commitment. The beauty of Celtic knots is how abstract they are, yet how much meaning they convey without depicting any specific animal or human form. They are pure pattern, pure symbol, speaking directly to universal concepts of connection and eternity. How did the Celts develop such a sophisticated mathematical and artistic system for these knots, seemingly independently from other cultures with similar geometric patterns? Did the monks who illuminated manuscripts assign new, specific meanings to older, more general knot patterns? What if these knots are not just art, but a coded form of ancient knowledge or cartography disguised as decoration? Number 17, what does a flower, without roots, tell us about the universe? The flower of life. It's a geometric pattern made of multiple overlapping circles, evenly spaced, forming a flower-like design with six-fold symmetry. You might have seen it in modern spiritual artwork or even in some ancient places. It's considered by many to be a blueprint for creation, a visual representation of the interconnectedness of all life. This intricate pattern is incredibly old and has appeared in various cultures across the globe. One of the most famous examples is in the Temple of Osiris at Abydos, Egypt. It's carved into a granite wall there dated to at least the 6th century BCE, though some theorize it could be far older, predating the rest of the temple. But it's not just in Egypt. You can find the flower of life in ancient Assyrian palaces, in the Forbidden City in China, in temples in India, and even in medieval European cathedrals. The sheer geographical spread and ancient origins suggest a universally recognized pattern, or perhaps a shared human experience of sacred geometry. The pattern itself is formed by drawing 7 or more overlapping circles. The center of each circle is the circumference of 6 circles around it, forming a symmetrical flower pattern. When extended, it creates a repeating, tessellating pattern that can go on infinitely. This simple geometric rule creates an incredibly complex and beautiful design. For those who study sacred geometry, the flower of life is much more than just a pretty pattern. It's seen as a fundamental template for the universe containing the very patterns of creation. Within its structure, you can find other important geometric shapes like the Vesica Piscis, the seed of life, the egg of life, the tree of life conceptually, and even Metatron's cube, which in turn contains all Platonic solids. This suggests that the flower of life holds the underlying structure for all known forms and dimensions. Dr. Melchizedek, in his book The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, popularized the idea that this symbol represents the genesis of all things. He argues that the pattern is a blueprint for the creation of reality, from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy. While his interpretations delve into New Age spirituality, the geometric principles he highlights are undeniably present. The idea is that if you understand the flower of life, you can understand the fundamental building blocks of the universe. Leonardo da Vinci, the Renaissance genius, was fascinated by the flower of life. He studied its mathematical properties and geometric proportions, incorporating principles he derived from it into his art and designs. His notebooks contain drawings of the pattern, exploring its various aspects and connections to other geometric forms. This shows how artists and thinkers across different eras have recognized its profound significance. The symbol represents unity, the idea that everything is connected. Its unbroken, interlocking circles illustrate that all existence is part of a single interwoven tapestry. It speaks to the harmony and order inherent in the cosmos. It's a reminder that beneath the apparent chaos of the world, there's an underlying structure, a divine order that governs everything. In a world full of division, the flower of life offers a visual representation of ultimate togetherness. It's a powerful meditative tool for some, a symbol of enlightenment for others. It encourages us to see the bigger picture, to understand our place in the grand design of the universe. How could such an intricate geometric pattern appear in disparate cultures millennia ago without apparent direct contact? Was the carving in Abydos a representation of a previously unknown scientific or spiritual understanding? What if the flower of life is not a symbol about creation, but a physical manifestation of a vibrational frequency that actually generates form? Number 16, does a feathered serpent coil around forgotten wisdom? The Quetzalcoatl, it's not just a name, it's a deity, a concept, and a powerful symbol from ancient Mesoamerica, particularly prominent in Aztec and Mayan cultures. This creature is often depicted as a feathered serpent, combining the earthly power of a snake with the divine flight of a bird. Quetzalcoatl's story is complex and spans centuries, weaving through the histories of the Olmecs, Teotihuacans, Toltecs, Mayans, and Aztecs. The name itself comes from the Nahuatl language Quetzal, meaning a magnificent, iridescent, feathered bird, and Cotl, meaning serpent. So, feathered serpent. This duality is key to understanding its meaning. It first appears as early as the Olmec civilization around 1200 to 400 BCE, but becomes a major figure by the Teotihuacan period, 1st to 7th century CE, where a massive, feathered serpent pyramid is a central feature. Later, the Toltecs venerated Quetzalcoatl, and then the Aztecs adopted and integrated the deity into their pantheon, sometimes associating him with Ehecatl, the wind god. Quetzalcoatl symbolized a vast array of concepts. He was the god of creation, responsible for creating humanity, often depicted sacrificing himself to bring forth the current age of humans. He was also the god of wind, air, merchants, arts, crafts, and knowledge. He was associated with the morning star Venus, dawn, and light, often seen as a bringer of civilization and learning. The feathers link him to the sky and divinity, while the serpent connects him to the earth, fertility, and renewal. This blend of sky and earth, spirit, and matter makes him a profoundly balanced and integrated symbol. Professor David Carrasco, a leading scholar of Mesoamerican religions, has written extensively on Quetzalcoatl, highlighting his multifaceted role as a culture hero, a deity of cosmic order, and a symbol of both destruction and rebirth. Carrasco emphasizes how Quetzalcoatl represented the very act of bringing forth light and life from primordial chaos. The architectural presence of Quetzalcoatl is immense. At Teotihuacan, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent features hundreds of carved heads of the deity, often alongside those of Tlaloc, the rain god. These structures were not just places of worship, but also cosmic calendars aligning with celestial events and embodying the very myths they depicted. These monumental carvings show the god's central role in their cosmology and daily life. For the Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl also carried a moral dimension. He was often seen as a benign, priestly god, contrasted with more bloodthirsty deities like Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and sacrifice. Quetzalcoatl was associated with priestly fasting, learning, and the pursuit of knowledge. His return was prophesied, creating a complicated scenario when Hernan Cortés arrived, as some initially mistook him for the returning deity. The feathered serpent represented transformation and spiritual ascent. Just as a snake sheds its skin, renewing itself, and a bird takes flight, ascending to the heavens, Quetzalcoatl embodied the idea of leaving the old behind and striving for higher states of being. It was about balancing the grounding of earthly wisdom combined with celestial understanding. The enduring power of the feathered serpent symbol reminds us of the sophisticated worldview of Mesoamerican civilizations. They saw the cosmos not as separate parts, but as a living, interconnected entity, where gods and humans, sky and earth, were all part of a grand, dynamic process. How did the concept of a feathered serpent become so central and ubiquitous across such diverse Mesoamerican cultures for thousands of years? Is it possible that the myths of Quetzalcoatl encode actual historical events or scientific observations disguised as divine narrative? What if the feathered serpent represents a profound, forgotten understanding of human consciousness and its potential for spiritual evolution? Number 15. What ancient truth does a three-legged spinner reveal? The Triskelion. It's a symbol that looks like three spirals or three curved legs emanating from a central point. Sometimes called a Triskela, it's a powerful and ancient motif found across various cultures, but most famously associated with Celtic art. Its origins are incredibly old, predating the Celts by millennia. One of the most famous examples is found at Newgrange in Ireland, dating back to around 3200 BCE, carved into a massive stone. That's older than the pyramids of Egypt. It also appears in Mycenaean art around 1600 to 1100 BCE in ancient Greece, on coins, and even on pottery in Sicily. Its wide distribution suggests an archetype, a universally resonant image. The core meaning of the Triskelion revolves around the number 3, a number that holds significant spiritual weight in many traditions. In Celtic culture, triads, groups of three, were fundamental to the three realms: earth, sea, sky, the three stages of life, birth, life, death, the three faces of the goddess maiden, mother, crone. The Triskelion beautifully encapsulates this triplicity. For the Celts, the continuous flowing nature of the spirals in the Triskelion symbolized movement, progress, and cyclical existence. It represented continuous motion, the unfolding of creation, and the eternal flow of energy. It could signify action, personal growth, and the constant striving forward. Like the Celtic knot, its lack of a clear beginning or end speaks to eternity and timelessness. Professor Barry Cunliffe, an eminent archaeologist and expert on Celtic history, discusses how such abstract symbols were critical to conveying complex spiritual and cosmological ideas in pre-literate societies. These symbols weren't just decorations, they were fundamental expressions of their worldview. Later, with the arrival of Christianity, the Triskelion, like the Triquetra, was sometimes adapted to represent the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, showing the powerful persistence of the symbol and its ability to absorb new meanings. In Sicily, the Triskelion has been a symbol for thousands of years and is even on their flag today. The three legs on the Sicilian Trinacria are often said to represent the three capes or promontories of the island, with the head of Medusa or Ceres at the center. This shows how an ancient, universal symbol can also become deeply tied to specific geographical and cultural identities. The Triskelion, with its dynamic, swirling energy, is a constant reminder of change, evolution, and the interconnectedness of all things. It encourages us to embrace movement, to see life as a continuous journey, and to recognize the underlying patterns of three that shape our world. Its simple elegance belies a profound depth of meaning, connecting us to the ancient past and the universal forces of creation. How did ancient peoples from different continents, thousands of years apart, arrive at this very specific three-legged spiral design? Does its design reflect a universal human neurological response to certain patterns? What if the Triskelion is a dynamic representation of fundamental physical forces like rotation or energy fields that we are only now beginning to understand? Number 14. What does the serpent entwined staff really promise? In the caduceus, you see it everywhere, often mistakenly associated with medicine, a staff with two snakes entwined around it, and sometimes two wings at the top. It's a striking image, but its true meaning is far older and more complex than just a symbol for doctors. The caduceus is the staff of Hermes or Mercury in Roman mythology, the messenger god, god of trade, eloquence, diplomacy, travelers, thieves, and tricksters. And it's not primarily a medical symbol. That distinction usually belongs to the rod of Asclepius, which has only one snake and no wings, and is directly linked to Asclepius, the Greek god of healing and medicine. The confusion between the two symbols started sometime in the 19th century in the United States, likely through misidentification in military medical corps and other organizations, and unfortunately it stuck. The true origin of the caduceus is ancient, possibly stretching back to Mesopotamia, with connections to the god Ningishita, who was also depicted with entwined serpents. In Greek mythology, Hermes received the staff from Apollo or as a gift from Zeus. There are stories that Hermes used it to stop a fight between two snakes, which then entwined around his staff, solidifying its form. The meaning of the caduceus, therefore, aligns with Hermes' domains. The staff itself represents authority and power. The two entwined serpents symbolize duality and balanced light and dark, good and evil, male and female, chaos and order. Their opposition and unity represent negotiation, mediation, and the resolution of conflict, fitting for a messenger and diplomat god. They also symbolize wisdom and transformation, as serpents shedding their skin are ancient symbols of rebirth and renewal. The wings at the top represent Hermes' speed and his role as a messenger, traveling between the mortal and divine worlds. They symbolize swift communication, understanding, and the ability to transcend earthly limitations. Dr. Walter J. Friedlander, in his detailed historical study, The Golden Wand of Medicine, A History of the Caduceus as a Medical Symbol, meticulously traces the misadoption of the caduceus in medical contexts. He points out that for centuries, the rod of Asclepius was the undisputed symbol of medicine, and the caduceus's shift into that role is a relatively recent and somewhat erroneous development. So, what did the caduceus promise? It promised safe passage, diplomatic resolution, communication, and good fortune in trade. For travelers, it was a sign of protection. For merchants, it signaled fair dealings and prosperity. For speakers, it suggested eloquence and persuasion. It was a tool of influence and arbitration, embodying Hermes' versatile abilities to move between worlds and bring order to disparate elements. Its presence in ancient art and literature, like Homer's epics, confirms its role as an attribute of Hermes. He used it to guide souls to the underworld, to cast sleep, and to awaken. It was a magical instrument, not just a physical one. The symbol, with its entwined opposites, also speaks to the harmony that can be achieved through understanding and integration. It's a reminder that strength often lies in balance, and that conflict can be resolved through skillful mediation. It represents the ability to navigate complex situations, to speak truth, and to find common ground. The power of the caduceus comes from its embodiment of Hermes's diverse and crucial roles in the ancient world. It's a symbol of dynamic balance, communication, and the art of bridging divides far removed from the singular focus of healing, yet equally potent in its own right. How did such a specific and ancient symbol become so widely confused with another? Does the dual serpent imagery resonate with something primal in the human psyche about opposing forces, regardless of specific cultural myths? What if the caduceus represents an ancient, forgotten method of communication or influence that involved more than just words? Number 13, what echoes does a sacred sound leave in the soul? Or OME. It's not a picture or a carving, it's a sound, a mantra, and perhaps the most sacred symbol in Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. If you've ever been to a yoga class or heard spiritual chanting, you've probably heard it. It's a single, resonant syllable, but it carries an immense amount of meaning, said to be the primordial sound of the universe. The origins of Om are deeply rooted in ancient Indian scriptures, particularly the Vedas, which are among the oldest sacred texts in the world, dating back to at least 1500 BCE. The Mandukya Upanishad, a Hindu scripture specifically dedicated to the meaning of Om, states that Om is the imperishable word. Om is the universe, and this is the exposition of Om. The past, the present, and the future, all that is Om. And what is beyond the three times, that too is Om. This highlights its all-encompassing nature. Om is pronounced as three distinct sounds, A-U-M. Each part carries profound symbolism. Ah represents the waking state, the conscious mind, and the beginning of all creation. And it's the sound from the back of the throat, the base of articulation. U represents the dream state, the subconscious mind, and the preservation of creation. It's the sound that rolls forward in the mouth, represents the deep sleep state, the unconscious mind, and the dissolution or transformation of creation. It's the humming sound, often prolonged, symbolizing the release and return to the source. The silence that follows the M sound is also crucial. This represents the fourth state, Turiya, which is the state of pure consciousness, absolute reality, and true enlightenment beyond all the other states. It's the unmanifest, the ultimate reality from which everything emerges and to which everything returns. Paramahansa Yogananda, a key figure in introducing yoga and meditation to the West in the 20th century, wrote extensively about Om, which he often called Om as the cosmic vibration. He taught that by chanting Om, one can tune into this cosmic sound, which permeates all existence and connect with the divine. His book, Autobiography of a Yogi, describes the spiritual experiences associated with this vibration. In Hinduism, Om is considered the sound of Brahman, the ultimate reality, the divine ground of all existence. It's the sound of the universe manifesting itself. Chanting Om is a way to meditate, to focus the mind, to connect with the divine within and without, and to bring about a state of inner peace and spiritual awakening. It's used in prayer, meditation, and rituals. In Buddhism, Om is often included at the beginning of mantras such as Om Mani Padme Hum, used to invoke compassion and wisdom. It signifies the interconnectedness of all things and the path to enlightenment. In Jainism, Om also holds sacred significance, representing the five supreme beings. The written symbol for Om, which is a stylized representation of the Sanskrit characters for Um, is also highly recognizable and holds its own visual power. It's a diagram of the sound itself, capturing the upward and downward flow of energy. The power of Om isn't just in its intellectual meaning, but in its vibrational quality. Chanting it is believed to create a resonance in the body and mind, calming the nervous system, focusing attention, and opening spiritual channels. It's a tool for self-realization, a direct path to experiencing the unity of all things. How can a single sound be understood as the blueprint of the universe in such diverse and ancient traditions? Is the vibrational resonance of Om truly connected to fundamental physical properties of the cosmos, or is its power purely psychological and spiritual? What lost ancient knowledge about sound and its effect on consciousness might be encoded within this simple syllable. Number 12, what does the three-horned triangle mean for the honored dead? The Valkna, it's a symbol that instantly evokes images of Norse mythology, Viking warriors, and ancient mysteries. It's made of three interlocked triangles, often appearing in runic inscriptions or on grave goods from the Germanic Iron Age and Viking Age. But despite its striking appearance, its exact meaning and purpose remain shrouded in debate. The name Valknut is a modern Norwegian compound word, meaning not of the slain warrior or not of the fallen. This name isn't ancient scholars gave it this name, reflecting its common appearance in contexts related to death and memorial. We see it on archaeological finds like the Stora Hammers stones in Gotland, Sweden, which are memorial stones from the 7th to 9th centuries CE. These stones depict scenes of sacrifice, battles, and death, often with the Valknut prominently displayed. Another famous example is on the Tanglegarda stone. The primary association of the Valknut is with Odin, the Norse god of war, wisdom, death, and poetry. Odin was known to choose which warriors would fall in battle and bring them to Valhalla. The Valknut is therefore thought to symbolize Odin's power to bind and unbind, to chain and unchain. It could represent the power over life and death, the fate of warriors, and the transition from the earthly realm to the afterlife. The three interlocked triangles are crucial. The number 3 is significant in Norse mythology, just as it is in Celtic tradition. There are 9 points in total 3 by 3, another highly sacred number in Norse cosmology, 9 worlds, Odin hanging on Yggdrasil for 9 nights. This triplicity and repetition might emphasize its potency. Scholars like Hilda Ellis Davidson, a leading expert on Norse mythology, have discussed the Valknut in the context of ritual death and sacrifice. She suggests that the symbol might have been a representation of the ecstatic state associated with Odin, perhaps a symbol for those who had given their lives to him or who were destined for his halls. It could have been a sign of initiation or a mark of those chosen by the god. Another interpretation links the Valknut to the heart of the giant Hrungnir, described in Snorri Sturluson's Prose Edda, a 13th century Icelandic text that compiles Norse myths. The Hrungnir's heart is said to be made of hard stone with 3 sharp corners. While this is just one mythological reference, it suggests that a 3-cornered interlocking shape was already part of their symbolic landscape. The Valknut is also sometimes called Odin's knot. It might represent the magical ability of Odin to lay bonds upon the mind, to inspire fear in enemies, or to free his followers from fear and doubt. It could symbolize the interconnectedness of the 9 worlds of Norse cosmology, or the intricate web of fate. The fact that it is primarily found in funerary contexts on burial mounds, memorial stones, and objects associated with the dead strongly suggests its connection to death, the afterlife, and Odin's role in guiding souls. It was likely a protective symbol for the deceased, or a sign of their spiritual journey. Today, the Valknut is popular in modern Norse paganism, Viking reenactment, and even mainstream culture, often used as a general symbol of Norse heritage. However, its ancient mysteries remain. Its true spoken name is lost, and its full ritualistic meaning might never be completely recovered. It stands as a testament to a complex spiritual worldview that saw death not as an end, but as a transition bound by powerful divine forces. What was the original spoken name for the Valknut, and why was it never explicitly recorded? Did its appearance on grave goods imply a direct magical protection or an oath to Odin? What if the geometry of the 3 interlocking triangles represents a lost understanding of Norse cosmology, a map of the soul's journey or the realms of existence? Number 11. Does the double axe cut through layers of time and gender? The Labries, it's a symbol of a double-headed axe or a twin axe. It's powerful, symmetrical, and incredibly ancient, appearing in various cultures, but most famously associated with Minoan civilization on the island of Crete. The Labries dates back thousands of years. The most prolific examples come from the Minoan civilization, which flourished on Crete from roughly 2700 to 1450 BCE. Archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans, who excavated the Palace of Knossos in the early 20th century, found countless depictions of the Labries. It was carved into stones, painted on frescoes, found as miniature votive offerings, and even represented in the architecture itself. The term labyrinth, the famous maze associated with Knossos and the Minotaur, is believed by some scholars to derive from Labries, meaning house of the double axe. For the Minoans, the Labries was a profoundly sacred symbol. It was consistently associated with goddesses and female deities, suggesting a strong link to matriarchal or matrifocal religious practices. Unlike many contemporaneous cultures that emphasized male warrior gods, Minoan religion appears to have centered on a great mother goddess, and the Labries was a principal emblem of her power and authority. It might have represented her destructive and creative aspects, her sovereignty over life and death. Beyond its religious significance, the labyrinths also symbolized power, authority, and perhaps the ability to cut through obstacles or bring about transformation. It wasn't primarily a weapon in daily use, rather. It was a ritual object, a symbol of divine energy. Miniature labyrinths, made of gold or bronze, were found in shrines and tombs, likely offered as gifts to the gods or placed with the deceased for protection and guidance in the afterlife. The symmetry of the double axe, with its two opposing blades, can also represent balance, duality, and the integration of opposing forces. It cuts both ways, symbolizing the interconnectedness of life and death, creation and destruction. The labyrinth wasn't confined to Crete, though. Similar double axes have been found in other ancient European and Near Eastern cultures. In Thracian and Scythian cultures, for instance, double axes sometimes appear in warrior burials, possibly signifying military prowess or leadership. In some Anatolian civilizations, they were associated with storm gods. However, its consistent and overwhelming presence in Minoan religious contexts, often alongside female figures, gives it a unique character there. Your modern interpretations of the labyrinth sometimes link it to feminism and lesbian identity, particularly in the 20th century, recognizing its ancient association with powerful female deities and rejecting patriarchal symbols. This contemporary adoption speaks to the enduring power of ancient symbols to be reinterpreted and reclaim meaning in new contexts. The labyrinth reminds us of a powerful ancient civilization that revered goddesses and expressed complex spiritual ideas through simple, elegant symbols. It's a symbol of divine power, creative and destructive force, and the enduring authority of the sacred feminine. Why was the double axe so uniquely tied to female deities and authority in Minoan Crete, in contrast to its use as a weapon or male symbol elsewhere? Did the labyrinth originally mean the place of the double axe because of the symbol's pervasive presence, or because it held a deeper structural meaning related to the palace itself? What if the labyrinth represents a forgotten ancient technology, perhaps a tool for energy manipulation, or a device for connecting with divine forces? Number 10 does a 5-pointed star guide towards magic or wisdom. The pentagram. It's a 5-pointed star drawn with a single continuous line, often enclosed within a circle. This symbol has a long, complex, and sometimes controversial history, carrying vastly different meanings across cultures and time periods, ranging from protection and health to magic and evil. Its earliest known appearance dates back to ancient Mesopotamia, around 3000 BCE, where it was used as a royal seal and possibly as a representation of the 5 planets then known. It also appears in early Israelite seals and in ancient Greece. The Pythagoreans, a philosophical school in ancient Greece around the 6th century BCE, adopted the pentagram as a symbol of health and perfection. They saw it as representing the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, and its perfect mathematical proportions. The golden ratio were central to their understanding of the cosmos. For the Pythagoreans, the pentagram, which they called the pentalpha because it looked like 5 A's, symbolized the perfection of the human being, the harmony of mind and body, and divine proportion. They would use it as a secret sign of recognition. Later in Christianity, the pentagram was sometimes associated with the 5 wounds of Christ or with the 5 senses. Sir Gawain, a knight in Arthurian legend, wore a pentagram on his shield, symbolizing his 5 virtues. It was a symbol of truth and protection. However, the pentagram's reputation took a dark turn in the medieval period and early modern era. During the witch hunts, it became associated with witchcraft and evil, especially when inverted with 1 point down. This inversion was then linked to Satanism in the 19th and 20th centuries, a connection popularized by occultists like Eliphas Levi, who stated that an upright pentagram represents the spirit's dominion over matter, while an inverted one represents the spirit enslaved by matter or evil. This distinction and the subsequent widespread adoption by various satanic groups dramatically changed public perception. But before these negative associations, the pentagram was widely seen as a protective symbol. It was carved on doorways and windows to ward off evil spirits and bad luck. It was used in charms and amulets to ensure safety and well-being. Its single line construction, where the line never breaks, was seen as a way to trap evil, preventing it from entering. Modern Wicca and other Neopagan traditions have largely reclaimed the upright pentagram, seeing it again as a symbol of the 5 elements and the spirit, representing harmony, balance, and spiritual growth. It's often used in rituals to invoke protection and to connect with natural forces. Historian of magic and occultism Owen Davies, in his work on the history of witchcraft and magic, notes the fluidity of symbols and how their meanings can be reinterpreted over time depending on cultural and religious shifts. The pentagram is a prime example of a symbol whose meaning has been radically transformed, sometimes intentionally, sometimes through misunderstanding. The pentagram, in its essence, is a powerful geometric form. Its 5 points, representing different elements or aspects, speak to an integrated whole. It's a symbol of micro and macrocosmos, of humanity's place in the universe and the pursuit of knowledge and balance. Whether it guides towards magic or wisdom often depends on the intention and understanding of the one who uses it. How did a symbol of mathematical perfection and health transform into one of evil and the occult in the popular imagination? Did its use as a protective ward in ancient times stem from a forgotten understanding of its geometric properties? What if the ancient Pythagoreans understood something about the energetic resonance of the pentagram that allowed them to use it for healing or intellectual pursuits, a knowledge now lost? Number 9, what does the cosmic diagram tell us about inner and outer worlds? The Sri Yantra. It's a complex geometric diagram, a mandala, originating from Hinduism, particularly the Tantric traditions. At first glance, it looks like an intricate pattern of 9 interlocking triangles radiating from a central point, surrounded by concentric circles and a square. But it's far more than just a drawing. It's a powerful tool for meditation, a representation of the cosmos, and a map of the human spiritual journey. The Sri Yantra, which means holy instrument or sacred machine, is considered one of the most powerful and revered of all yantras. Its origins are ancient, rooted in Hindu scriptures and practices dating back thousands of years. It's a symbol of the Divine Mother, or Tripura Sundari, the most beautiful of the 3 worlds, representing the ultimate cosmic energy that creates, sustains, and dissolves the universe. The intricate geometry is highly symbolic, the Bindu central point. This is the innermost point, representing the cosmic center, the origin of creation, the pure consciousness, or the absolute. It's where the individual soul merges with the divine. 9 interlocking triangles. These are the most prominent feature. 4 upward pointing triangles represent the masculine principle, Shiva, and 5 downward pointing triangles represent the feminine principle, Shakti. Their interlocking signifies the union of the masculine and feminine, the integration of cosmic energies, and the creation of the universe through their dynamic interplay. Concentric circles. These layers represent cycles of creation and the expansion of consciousness. The lotus petals often surrounding the triangles. These symbolize the unfolding of spiritual enlightenment and the opening of the chakras' energy centers in the body. The outer square with 4 doors or gates. This represents the earthly realm, the material world, and a threshold for spiritual aspirants to enter the sacred space of the yantra. The Sri Yantra is not just an image to look at, it's a meditative object. By focusing on its various layers, moving from the outer square inward to the central bindu, practitioners aim to reverse the process of creation, withdrawing consciousness from the external world and merging it with the divine core. It's a journey from multiplicity to unity, from the manifest to the unmanifest. Dr. Harish Johari, a prolific author and tantric practitioner, extensively explored the Sri Yantra in his writings. He explained the precise mathematical construction of the yantra and its profound mystical significance, linking its geometry to cosmic principles in human psychology. He highlighted how each layer and line corresponds to different levels of consciousness and aspects of the divine. The mathematical precision of the Sri Yantra is astounding. Every line and angle is carefully calculated, reflecting a deep ancient understanding of geometry and cosmology. It's believed that its exact proportions resonate with cosmic frequencies, making it a powerful tool for manifestation and spiritual connection. Some modern researchers have even studied its energetic properties, suggesting it might have subtle effects on human consciousness and environment. The Sri Yantra symbolizes the entire cosmos, the human body, and the path to spiritual liberation. It's a visual representation of as above, so below, connecting the microcosm of the individual to the macrocosm of the universe. It's a complex and beautiful testament to the sophistication of ancient Indian spiritual thought, offering a profound pathway to understanding the nature of reality and our place within it. How did ancient Hindu sages derive such an intricate and mathematically precise geometric pattern without modern computational tools? Does the Sri Yantra generate a specific energetic field or vibrational frequency that impacts the human mind? What if this cosmic diagram is a lost form of universal language, capable of communicating profound spiritual truths across different levels of consciousness? Number 8, what message does a beetle carry from life to afterlife? The scarab. You've definitely seen it if you've looked at ancient Egyptian art or jewelry. It's a stylized representation of a dung beetle. But for the Egyptians, this humble insect was elevated to a powerful symbol of rebirth, regeneration, and the rising sun. The scarab beetle, specifically Scarabaeus sacer, was observed by ancient Egyptians performing a fascinating act rolling balls of dung across the ground and laying its eggs inside them. From these seemingly lifeless balls, new beetles would emerge, appearing to be born spontaneously. This act struck the Egyptians as a profound metaphor for self-creation and the miracle of new life emerging from apparent nothingness. This observation led to the scarab beetle being associated with Khepri, the Egyptian god of the rising sun. Khepri, whose name means he who comes into being, was often depicted as a man with a scarab for a head, or simply as a scarab beetle pushing the sun disk across the sky, much like the beetle pushes its ball of dung. The sun's daily journey of rising in the east, traversing the sky, and setting in the west, only to rise again, was the ultimate symbol of cyclical renewal and rebirth. So the scarab became a potent amulet for life, fertility, and resurrection. These scarab amulets were incredibly popular, worn by the living for good luck, protection, and vitality. They were made from a variety of materials: stone, faience, carnelian, lapis lazuli, and gold. These amulets were often carved with hieroglyphs or royal names on their flat undersides, turning them into seals or commemorative objects. But the scarab's most crucial role was in funerary practices. Scarabs were placed on mummies, often over the heart, to protect the deceased during their journey through the underworld. These heart scarabs were frequently inscribed with a spell from the Book of the Dead, chapter 30b, which implored the heart not to testify against the deceased during the judgment before Osiris. The spell reads, "O my heart, which I had from my mother, O my heart, which I had from my mother, O my heart of my different ages, do not stand up as a witness against me, do not contradict me in the tribunal." This highlights the scarab's vital role in ensuring a favorable afterlife. Dr. Joanne Fletcher, a prominent Egyptologist, often discusses how ubiquitous and symbolically rich the scarab was. She emphasizes that its meaning was layered, encompassing not just rebirth but also protection and the sheer power of transformation. It was a tangible link between the mundane observations of nature and the profound spiritual beliefs of ancient Egypt. The scarab also symbolized the continuous process of becoming and evolving. Just as the sun endlessly renews itself and the beetle emerges anew, humans too could undergo transformation and achieve a renewed existence after death. It was a powerful message of hope and assurance in the face of mortality. Its enduring presence in modern culture, from jewelry to decorative items, shows that the fascination with this humble beetle-turned-divine symbol hasn't faded. It remains a testament to the ancient Egyptians' ability to find profound spiritual meaning in the everyday world around them, turning a common insect into a potent emblem of eternity. How did the ancient Egyptians consistently interpret the dung beetle's behavior as divine resurrection, while other cultures simply saw an insect? Were there specific rituals involving live scarabs that have been lost to history? What if the scarab's symbolic power is linked to an unrecognized ancient understanding of biological cycles or subtle energetic forces connected to life and death? Number 7. Does a world tree branch out to all realities? The Tree of Life. You find this symbol in nearly every major culture and spiritual tradition across the globe. It's a fundamental archetype, a massive, often intricate tree, its roots reaching deep into the earth, its branches stretching high into the heavens. It's a universal symbol of connection, growth, wisdom, and the interconnectedness of all living things. Its origins are incredibly ancient. In Mesopotamia, as early as the 3rd millennium BCE, the Tree of Life was a prominent motif, appearing on cylinder seals and in religious texts, often associated with gods and kings, symbolizing fertility and divine power. In ancient Egypt, the sycamore tree was sacred, and sometimes considered a tree of life, linking the earth to the sky and offering nourishment to the dead. For the Norse, it was Yggdrasil, the immense ash tree that connected the 9 worlds of their cosmos. Its roots reached into the underworld, its trunk supported the mortal realm Midgard, and its branches held the heavens Asgard, embodying the entire structure of their universe. Gods, giants, and mythical creatures resided within or around its vast expanse. Snorri Sturluson's Prose Edda provides detailed descriptions of Yggdrasil, emphasizing its role as the axis mundi, the central pillar of existence. In Judaism, the tree of life, Etz Chaim, appears in the book of Genesis in the Garden of Eden, offering immortality. Later in Kabbalah Jewish mysticism, the tree of life becomes a complex diagram of 10 interconnected Sephirot divine emanations, or attributes that describe the nature of God, the process of creation, and the path to spiritual understanding. It's a roadmap to the universe and the human soul. Christianity adopts the tree of life from Genesis, though often contrasting it with the tree of knowledge. Islam features the tree of immortality in the Quran, and the Sidrat al-Muntaha lot tree of the utmost bound marks the boundary beyond which no created being can pass, connecting it to divine realms. The universal meanings of the tree of life are powerful connection and interdependence. Its roots and branches symbolize the link between heaven and earth, physical and spiritual, and the idea that all life stems from a common source. In growth and development, a tree starts as a seed, grows, sheds leaves, and renews itself, symbolizing personal growth, wisdom gained through experience, and the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Strength and longevity. Ancient trees can live for centuries, representing enduring strength, resilience, and deep roots in history and tradition. For fertility and abundance, bearing fruit, the tree is a symbol of life, nourishment, and prosperity. Carl Jung, in his exploration of archetypes, would have seen the tree of life as a primordial image from the collective unconscious, representing the totality of the self, the process of individuation, and the connection between all aspects of the psyche. The tree of life appears in countless forms, stylized, realistic, intricate, simple. It's on ancient pottery, medieval tapestries, modern jewelry, and indigenous art. It's a testament to humanity's enduring quest to understand its place in the cosmos, to find connection, and to recognize the sacredness of life itself. It reminds us that we are all part of something much larger, deeply rooted, and infinitely branching. Why did so many disparate cultures across different continents independently develop the exact same symbol for the universe and life itself? Is there a biological or psychological reason why the tree form is so universally resonant as an archetype? What if the tree of life is not just a symbol, but an ancient, unified theory of everything, lost to time, depicting cosmic energy flows or interdimensional connections? Number 6, how does a circle divided show the balance of the universe? The yin and yang. This iconic symbol, with its perfectly balanced black and white halves, each containing a small dot of the opposite color, is instantly recognizable. It's a core concept in ancient Chinese philosophy, and represents the fundamental duality and interconnectedness of all things in the universe. The concepts of yin and yang date back at least to the 3rd century BCE, and possibly earlier. They are central to Taoism, one of China's major indigenous philosophies formulated by figures like Lao Tzu. The I Ching Book of Changes, an ancient Chinese divination text dating back millennia, is built entirely on the interplay of yin and yang. The symbol itself is typically a circle divided into 2 swirling halves, one black yin and one white yang. Yin, the black half, represents the feminine, darkness, passivity, cold, moon, night, water, earth, intuition, and interiority. Yang, the white half, represents the masculine, light, activity, warmth, sun, day, fire, sky, logic, and exteriority. The symbol's profound meaning lies in several key aspects. 1. Duality. All things exist as inseparable and contradictory opposites. You can't have light without dark, hot without cold, up without down. 2. Interdependence. Yin cannot exist without yang, and yang cannot exist without yin. They are mutually creating and mutually consuming. For example, a shadow yin only exists because of light yang. When one is out of balance, the other is affected. Too much yin or too much yang leads to disharmony. It means that within yin, there is always a seed of yang, and within yang, there is always a seed of yin. Nothing is purely one or the other. This suggests that change is always possible, and that even in the darkest moment, there is a spark of light, and vice versa. Yin can become yang, and yang can become yin. Day turns into night, and night turns into day. Winter turns into summer. This reflects the dynamic nature of existence. Dr. Isabelle Robinet, a French sinologist and expert on Taoism, has written extensively about the profound philosophical implications of yin and yang, detailing how these concepts underpin Chinese thought across various disciplines, including medicine, martial arts, and aesthetics. She explains that it's not about good versus evil, but about complementary forces that, when balanced, create harmony. In traditional Chinese medicine, the body's health is understood as a balance of yin and yang. Illness is seen as an imbalance, and treatments aim to restore equilibrium. In martial arts like Tai Chi, the movements embody the flowing interplay of these forces. The yin and yang symbol is a powerful reminder that life is a dynamic interplay of opposites. It teaches us to seek balance, to recognize the inherent presence of opposing forces within ourselves and the world, and to understand that change is constant. It's a simple circle, but it holds a universal wisdom about harmony, change, and interconnectedness. How did ancient Chinese philosophers develop such an abstract yet perfectly illustrative symbol for such complex cosmic principles? Is the concept of yin and yang a reflection of deep neurological structures in the human brain that process duality? What if the yin and yang symbol is a lost ancient diagram for understanding energy flow or even quantum mechanics, disguised as a philosophical concept? Number 5. What protection does an open hand offer against the evil eye? The Hamsa. It's an ancient symbol that looks like an open hand, often with an eye in the palm. You see it everywhere in the Middle East and North Africa, worn as jewelry, hung on walls, or incorporated into decorative items. It's a powerful amulet revered for its ability to ward off evil, bring good fortune, and offer protection. The Hamsa's origins are very old, tracing back to ancient Mesopotamia and North Africa. Hand symbols have been used as protective talismans for thousands of years in many cultures. The Hamsa itself gained prominence in Phoenician culture, associated with the goddess Tanit, and later became deeply embedded in both Jewish and Islamic traditions. In Jewish tradition, it's known as the Hand of Miriam, Moses' sister, or the Hand of Fatima. In Islamic tradition, Prophet Muhammad's daughter. The 5 fingers of the hand are often interpreted symbolically. In Judaism, they can represent the 5 books of the Torah, or the 5 senses. In Islam, they can represent the 5 pillars of Islam, or the 5 people of the cloak: Muhammad, Fatima, Ali, Hassan, and Hussein. The primary function of the Hamsa is protection against the evil eye, Ayin Hara in Hebrew, Ayin al-Hasad in Arabic. The evil eye is a belief, prevalent in many cultures, that a malevolent glare can cause misfortune, illness, or even death. The Hamsa, with its open palm, acts as a visual shield, deflecting these negative intentions. The eye, often found in the center of the palm, is itself a protective symbol, believed to reflect evil back to its source. Professor Dov Noy, a renowned folklorist, has documented the widespread use of Hamsa across various Jewish communities, highlighting its function as an apotropaic charm and its cultural significance in personal identity and collective memory. Similarly, scholars like Dr. Stephen Hirsch, who study Islamic folk traditions, note its pervasive presence in North African and Middle Eastern Muslim communities. The Hamsa also symbolizes blessings, power, and strength. It's believed to bring good luck, health, fertility, and abundance to its owner. Hanging it in a home, wearing it as a necklace, or incorporating it into a baby's crib is meant to invoke these positive energies and keep negative ones away. There are 2 main styles of the Hamsa fingers together, which is believed to bring good luck, and fingers spread apart, which is believed to ward off evil. Both serve the general purpose of protection and good fortune. Despite its different names and specific religious interpretations, the core message of the Hamsa remains universal, a powerful symbol of divine protection and a visual representation of the desire for well-being and safety. Its enduring popularity across different faiths and cultures shows the profound human need for symbols that offer comfort, ward off unseen dangers, and connect individuals to a sense of divine care. How did the belief in the evil eye become so widespread across ancient cultures, and how did a hand symbol become its universal countercharm? Is there a psychological effect that makes protective symbols like the Hamsa genuinely effective for those who believe in them? What if the Hamsa is a forgotten ancient blueprint for a device or method that genuinely blocked negative energies or intentions? Number 4. Does the cobra crown hint at serpentine sovereignty and sacred power? The uraeus. It's the upright, rearing cobra, often seen on the headdress of pharaohs and gods in ancient Egypt. It's one of the most distinctive and powerful symbols of Egyptian royalty, divinity, and protection. This isn't just a simple snake, it's a direct link to the power of the sun and the fierce protection of the gods. The uraeus symbolizes the goddess Wadjet, the cobra goddess of Lower Egypt, the northern part of ancient Egypt. When Upper and Lower Egypt were united, the uraeus became a symbol of the combined sovereignty of the pharaoh over both lands. It was worn on the pharaoh's crown or headdress, usually alongside a vulture representing Nekhbet, the goddess of Upper Egypt. This dual symbol underscored the pharaoh's divine authority and his role as ruler of the entire unified kingdom. The rearing cobra was always depicted ready to strike. This posture symbolized the pharaoh's power to defend himself and his people against all enemies. It was believed that the uraeus could spit fire at the pharaoh's foes, incinerating them with divine wrath. It was a tangible manifestation of the pharaoh's divine protection and his fearsome power. Archaeological finds, particularly from royal tombs, are rich with examples of the uraeus. The golden death mask of Tutankhamun, for instance, features a prominent uraeus and a vulture on its forehead, signifying his ultimate royal and divine status even in death. Similar imagery is found on royal statuary, temple carvings, and jewelry throughout Egyptian history, from the Old Kingdom c. 2686 to 2181 BCE, all the way through the Ptolemaic period. Dr. Zahi Hawass, a renowned Egyptian archaeologist and former Minister of State for Antiquities Affairs, often highlights the uraeus in his explanations of pharaonic power. He emphasizes its role not just as a symbol, but as an active magical protector imbued with the spirit of the goddess Wadjet. Beyond protection, the uraeus was also deeply connected to the sun god Ra. Wadjet was sometimes seen as the eye of Ra, and the uraeus on the pharaoh's brow symbolized this direct connection to the blazing power of the sun. The pharaoh, wearing the uraeus, became a living embodiment of Ra's authority and protective energy. It represented the divine fire and light that guarded the ruler, and by extension, Egypt itself. The choice of the cobra is significant. Cobras were respected and feared in ancient Egypt. Their venomous bite was deadly, and their ability to rear up and expand their hood made them appear powerful and majestic. This natural behavior was elevated to a divine attribute, reflecting the formidable power of the pharaoh. The uraeus, therefore, isn't just a fancy adornment, it's a multi-layered symbol of divine protection, royal authority, and the fierce, unyielding power of the Egyptian gods. It speaks to a worldview where the sacred and the political were inseparable, and where a king's rule was intimately tied to the cosmos and the will of the deities. Why was the cobra, a dangerous animal, chosen as such a central symbol of divine protection and royalty? Did the Egyptians believe the uraeus literally had the power to spit fire or paralyze enemies, or was it purely symbolic? What if the uraeus represents a lost technology or ancient understanding of energy projection manifested in the form of a sacred serpent? Number 3. Does a labyrinth lead to a monster or to self-discovery? In the labyrinth, not just a maze, but a specific ancient pattern that has captivated humanity for thousands of years. Unlike a maze, which offers choices and dead ends, a labyrinth has only one path, which winds intricately to a central goal. You can't get lost, you can only lose yourself. The earliest known labyrinths date back to the Neolithic period, appearing on petroglyphs in places like Galicia, Spain, and Crete, around 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. The most famous ancient labyrinth is the legendary one built by Daedalus for King Minos of Crete to house the Minotaur. While the Cretan labyrinth was a complex, multi-path maze in myth, archaeologists have found remnants of single-path labyrinth patterns on Minoan coins and artifacts. The name a labyrinth itself may come from labors, the double axe symbol so prevalent in Minoan culture, meaning house of the double axe. The classical seven-circuit labyrinth pattern became widely known. This pattern is found across cultures, from Native American traditions like the man in the maze symbol of the Tohono O'odham to Hindu temples in India. This universality, without obvious direct cultural transmission in many cases, is remarkable. The meaning of the labyrinth is deeply symbolic. Journey and transformation. The single path represents a journey, a pilgrimage, or a quest. It's a metaphor for life's challenges and twists, leading inevitably to a central truth or a core experience. Walking a labyrinth can be a meditative act, a moving meditation where the winding path mirrors an inner journey. Self-discovery. As you walk the labyrinth, the repetitive motion and the focus on the path can lead to a meditative state, allowing for introspection, reflection, and ultimately self-discovery. The center often represents a point of clarity, revelation, or connection to a higher self. Order and chaos. The intricate yet ordered pattern of the labyrinth reflects the idea that even amidst apparent complexity, there is an underlying order and a clear path. It symbolizes the cosmos, a journey through different layers of existence to reach a central truth. Death and rebirth. In some ancient cultures, labyrinths were associated with death rites and initiations. The journey to the center and back out could symbolize a symbolic death and rebirth, a transition to a new state of being. Dr. Hermann Kern, in his monumental work Labyrinths, Traditions, and Archaeology, meticulously documents the history and diverse forms of labyrinths, emphasizing their spiritual and ritualistic significance across civilizations. He highlights how their purpose was rarely about getting lost, but rather about a structured symbolic journey. In medieval Europe, labyrinths were often incorporated into cathedral floors, like the famous one at Chartres Cathedral in France. These prayer walks, or pilgrim paths, allowed congregants who couldn't travel to the Holy Land to undertake a symbolic pilgrimage, walking the path of faith to the spiritual center. The labyrinth, unlike a confusing maze, offers a structured path to a destination. It's not about puzzles, it's about process. It teaches patience, focus, and the understanding that even a circuitous route can lead to clarity. It's a powerful tool for contemplation, reminding us that sometimes the longest way around is the shortest way home to ourselves. How did the specific single-path labyrinth pattern emerge independently across such diverse ancient cultures? Did the ancients understand something about the psychological effects of walking a labyrinth that we are only now rediscovering? What if the labyrinth is a diagram for navigating not just physical space, but internal mental states or even other dimensions, a kind of ancient spiritual technology? Number 2. What sacred geometry does the fish bladder reveal? The Vesica Piscis, it's a fundamental shape in sacred geometry formed by the intersection of two circles of the same radius, with the center of each circle lying on the circumference of the other. The resulting almond-shaped overlap is the Vesica Piscis, Latin for fish bladder, so named because of its resemblance to the eye or bladder of a fish. But its meaning is far from mundane. This shape is incredibly old and has been a cornerstone of symbolic art and architecture across numerous civilizations. Its earliest appearances can be traced back to ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt, often found in early patterns that predate Christianity. For instance, the flower of life, which we talked about earlier, is composed entirely of interconnected Vesica Piscis shapes. The Vesica Piscis symbolizes many profound concepts: creation and Genesis. It's considered the geometric blueprint for creation itself. When the divine one, represented by a single circle, divides and reflects upon itself, creating a second circle, their intersection is the first act of creation, the womb from which all other forms emerge. Many sacred geometry traditions see it as the origin of all other geometric forms, including the Platonic solids, duality and unity. The two intersecting circles represent duality, two distinct entities, yet their overlap signifies their shared essence and ultimate unity. It's a visual representation of the concept of two becoming one, or the harmonious interplay of opposing forces. Light and knowledge. The shape of the Vesica Piscis resembles an eye, and in ancient traditions it was sometimes seen as the eye of God, or the womb of light. This relates to divine vision, the source of knowledge and enlightenment. Feminine principle. Historically, it has often been associated with the divine feminine. Its shape resembles the vulva, symbolizing the feminine creative principle, birth, and fertility. It's also linked to goddesses in various ancient cultures, proportion and harmony. The geometric properties of the Vesica Piscis are remarkable. The ratio of its width to its height is very close to the square root of 3, approximately 1.732, a number with significant implications in geometry and music. This suggests inherent mathematical harmony. In Christianity, the Vesica Piscis is very prominent. It often frames images of Christ, the Virgin Mary, or saints, particularly in medieval art. This shape is called a mandorla, meaning almond in Italian, and it symbolizes the sacred glory, divine majesty, and the union of heaven and earth. The fish itself was an early Christian symbol, ichthys, and the Vesica Piscis' shape reinforced this association. Dr. Robert Lawlor, in his classic book Sacred Geometry, Philosophy, and Practice, extensively explores the Vesica Piscis, detailing its mathematical properties and its profound symbolic meaning across different spiritual traditions. He explains how the seemingly simple intersection forms the basis for complex geometric constructions and cosmological understanding. The Vesica Piscis also served as a basic pattern for architectural design, particularly in the layout of churches and the construction of arches and vaults, where its proportions created aesthetic harmony and structural stability. The Vesica Piscis is a silent testament to ancient wisdom, revealing how simple geometric forms can carry immense spiritual and mathematical meaning. It speaks to the fundamental processes of creation, the balance of opposites, and the underlying order of the universe, all contained within the elegant overlap of two circles. How did ancient architects and artists intuitively grasp the profound mathematical and symbolic properties of the Vesica Piscis without modern tools? Is there a lost ancient text that explicitly details the use of this shape for specific ritual or energetic purposes? What if the Vesica Piscis acts as a geometric antenna capable of focusing or transmitting subtle energies related to creation or consciousness? Number 1. What does the spiral horns of the universe unveil? The horns of consecration. This symbol, often depicted as a pair of bull or goat horns, sometimes stylized, is ancient and profoundly significant, particularly in Minoan civilization predating many other European symbols. It's not just animal parts, it's a representation of divine power, fertility, and sacred space. The most famous context for the horns of consecration is Minoan Crete, around 2700 to 1450 BCE. Archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans, during his excavations at Knossos, found numerous instances of these horns, often adorning the tops of altars, palace walls, and sacred buildings. They were a central feature of Minoan religious architecture and iconography. They are typically U-shaped, with a central space resembling the stylized horns of a bull. For the Minoans, the bull was an immensely sacred animal, revered for its strength, virility, and life-giving power. The horns of consecration, therefore, symbolized the sacred power of the bull. This was likely tied to the Minoan Great Mother Goddess, who was often associated with animals and fertility. The horns likely represented her creative and potent energy, her dominion over life and the natural world. They marked a place or object as sacred, set apart for divine purposes. Beyond the bull, horns in general, especially from goats or rams, have been symbols of fertility, abundance, and strength in many ancient cultures. They represent the life force, virility, and protective power of nature. Scholars like Nano Marinatos, an expert on Minoan religion, describe the horns of consecration as a clear indicator of sacred space. Wherever they were placed, seen on a rooftop, an altar, or a cult object, that spot was considered consecrated, imbued with divine presence. They might have marked the boundary between the mundane and the divine, acting as a portal for communication with the gods. The central space between the horns was sometimes used to place a double axe, labris, or a ceremonial object, further emphasizing the sacredness of the arrangement. This suggests a ritualistic function, perhaps for offerings or specific ceremonies. The symbol also reflects an ancient understanding of the cosmos. The horns reaching upwards could be seen as connecting the earthly realm to the heavens, guiding prayers or offerings to the divine. Their strong, grounded base connects them firmly to the earth, linking the sacred to the natural world. While most famously Minoan, similar horn motifs appear in other early Mediterranean and Near Eastern cultures, albeit with different specific contexts. The enduring prevalence of horns as symbols of power and divinity suggests a deep-seated human association with these natural forms. The horns of consecration are a silent testament to a powerful, nature-centered religion, one that deeply revered animals and found the divine expressed in the raw, potent forces of the natural world. They speak of a civilization deeply connected to the earth, the sky, and the sacred cycles of life and death, all embodied in the majestic symbol of the bull's horns. What specific rituals took place at altars adorned with the horns of consecration in Minoan Crete? Did the shape of the horns direct or amplify certain energies, acting as a kind of ancient antenna for divine communication? What if the horns of consecration are a forgotten symbol of stellar alignment or cosmic mapping, disguised as an animal motif?